Alrighty. Let's find out how this is going to go. I guess I can close a couple of things before we get started. Okay. Welcome back to Tailosive Tech Live on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, the stream, I'm sure as some of you can already tell, looks a little bit different than usual. I've got good news and I've got bad news. So, what do you want to hear first? Where should I start? Let's just start with the good news. The good news is I found a new beta feature that they've rolled out in OBS that should basically allow for a bit more stability during these live streams. So in the past, I've been switching more to my phone, streaming off of cellular data in the Streamlabs app, which has been spotty, also not super reliable and buggy, and there's been issues with the code. So not ideal, and also the microphone quality, I can tell on the iPhone is not as good as it is on the MacBook Pro. So yes, I'm still streaming through the MacBook Pro microphone, although I get to plug into my Blackmagic now, which I think looks quite a bit better. And the good news is this option, similar to FaceTime video calls or Zoom video calls, like if you go to a different part of the house where the Wi-Fi signal is worse, or if you're talking to someone in the car, and you get to a place with low connection, the video feed compresses or the audio feed compresses. That's what this new feature on OBS does. So I'm just trying to warn you guys now, and please explain to other people throughout the stream. I'm going to try my best not to repeat myself over and over again, but there will be times where Starlink, we're streaming on Starlink right now, has its little lag fests where the upload speed drops occasionally. Most of the time it's fine, but occasionally when it drops, this live stream is going to get really, really compressed. So compressed, in fact, it's not even going to look like a video feed. It's going to get really pixelated and gray. And if you guys have ever seen that MKBHD video where he re-uploads the same video like 1,000 times, like the worst version of that video, that's what this live stream will look like when the upload speed takes a hit. It will recover, it will fix itself, it should only last for a couple of seconds, and then it will return back to its original quality like this. And the good news about this compression is that from all the testing I've done so far, it preserves the audio. And the reason I'm prioritizing that and experimenting with it today, yes, I'll address what's in the title and thumbnail. I'm just trying to preface this whole stream by saying I'm experimenting with new software, and the good news is this does preserve the audio. So if I'm going off on a tangent talking about the new Apple AR headset, or I'm talking about Legion X downloading 15.4 beta, I'm glad it's working well for you, by the way. That's all great, but if I'm in the middle of a sentence, you should still be able to hear me, and I can talk through it. It's just the video feed, the visuals are going to look really pixelated, really bad, and I'm sure it's going to be distracting, and people are going to chat about it. But for people that turn on these live streams and just kind of leave them running in the background, and they're mostly just listening to me, not so much actively watching the stream, this should be better. I know that there's a lot of people listening to these at the Apple Podcasts app with the Tailosive Tech streams. As long as I don't address the choppy video feed for them, they won't experience any interruptions. And this should allow for better audio, occasionally better video, and also, of course, occasionally really bad video. But those should be intermittent. You are using up all the good bandwidth and saving the important information to be compressed later. I guess the important information is what I say, not so much how I look. And I would say 90% of the time how I look will be fine. It's just that 10% is going to look really choppy and pixelated. But you will still be able to hear me through those pixelations. And no, it has nothing to do with the router. This is all because of Starlink low Earth orbit satellites being spotty, and there's more and more people on the network, I believe. So far it's okay, but I'm just prefacing it will happen. There's no way around it. There will be an occasional pixelation mess. I'm just asking you to tolerate it. This seems to be the best way to stream and prioritize the audio, which I think should probably come first over video, because what I say probably matters more. And I imagine a lot of you turn on these streams and then go do other things. You leave me running in the background, and then you check Twitter, you check email, you go to a different tab. So I think this is the best way to go about it. If it's really, really bad and people start telling me they want me to just stream from the phone, I'll stream from a phone. So maybe by the end of this stream, I'll run a poll and see what people prefer. Yeah, they're adding more Starlink satellites all the time, so hopefully the video feed will improve. Um, but I apologize in advance for the pixelation. It will happen. Just wait. Anyway, yeah, hopefully Starlink should be adding. When do you think the full public release of iOS 15.4 is going to be out? It's usually like 3 weeks after the beta, I want to say. Maybe 4 weeks. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, that'd be my best guess is like 3 to 4 weeks out from the dev beta. But welcome to the stream, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Today's report was something I did actually have some thoughts on, but I figured this might be a good time to gauge the audience because when I was thinking about covering this AR headset rumor, first of all, it's from Digitimes, which is somewhat hit or miss, but according to Mac Rumors, Digitimes is going to end up being correct about this new M2 MacBook Pro coming out, which I'm kind of excited about, even though it's a same design, no design changes. One of the things they're keeping is the touch bar, which I'm pumped for, but Digitimes also has now mentioned that they think the AR headset has finished production testing. So this is kind of a step products go for before final mass production. There's different manufacturing processes and there's different steps to mass producing a product. Obviously, it's very complicated, very intricate. So finding a way to iron out this whole process has apparently been somewhat completed. And if that's the case, then I guess it's looking at least somewhat likely that Apple would move into mass production for the AR headset relatively soon. But I'm still trying to figure out like the best use case for this thing. I know we keep calling it an augmented reality headset, but to be honest, like, I really think that this should probably anything that doesn't let you look through it, like with a transparent glass or plastic display of any kind. Anything like that, I really think should be called virtual reality because as much as you might put cameras on the outside and let people, look through it and that kind of thing, I still consider it a VR headset, not an AR headset. I think that AR headset should be glasses, like when you have something that you can wear in public and look through it and it can be off and then you can just look around your environment the way you normally do. So that's how I see it. But Mark Gurman was trying to describe how Apple could end up using this new headset, and it would basically be like you could have a boardroom meeting with group FaceTime, and all the people you'd be having a meeting with are all using their animojis to communicate with each other. So you can have like a virtual boardroom sitting around a table digitally. Like, my question after hearing that business pitch of like, oh yeah, we're going to use Animoji to have virtual meetings with our headset is like, does anyone actually want to do that though? Like, is there anyone out there that thinks that would actually be good? That would actually be fun? That's my real question. Like, can you guys think of people you work with or going to a job where everyone has to put on an Apple headset that's like $2,000 and strap it onto their face, and then you're looking around a room full of people all using their animojis? Also, how do you face track people who are wearing headsets? Does that mean you got to put camera sensors on the side of the headset that are tracking my mouth motions and also on the inside of the headset tracking my eye motions? Therefore, adding to the more complexity overall. I just don't see anyone actually appreciating that or using it. Apple needs to kill off Animoji. I've noticed that they haven't talked about it much recently. No one is going to use that ever, I agree. It gets the expressions represented through the emoji. It would be fine. Represented through the emoji? What do you mean? How does it capture? How can you capture someone's facial expressions, though, when you have a headset covering their eyes? That's my question. I will. Yeah, Lord Zero says I will not do that at all. Scott says literally no one is going to use that. After the AR headset is out, we can start waiting for the more important Apple glasses. My point that I've been harping on for a while, so I'm sorry if I've mentioned this before, but my point is I think Apple is going to wait until they can go straight to the glasses. They might have some internal prototype for Reality OS development. Some people saw references to that within some of the new generations of iOS. Memoji would work through sound? What? How the heck would it work through sound? Vidor? I don't think I can take an Animoji boss seriously if they frown smile. Can you imagine having a difficult conversation with staff and employees and explaining to them, like, you can't work here anymore, but you're an Animoji the entire time. You're just a dinosaur T-Rex that's like, look, you're just not doing your job properly. And we really think it was inappropriate that you sent memes back and forth using your work email address. And it's just a T-Rex, explaining this the whole time. It sounds kind of funny, but yeah, you're right. I couldn't take it seriously. Does anyone use... Here's a better question. Does anyone actually use Animoji frequently? Those little animated or stickers or anything? Does anyone actually use that? I prefer Apple make a VR headset. That's basically what this thing would be. AR glasses are much better than VR glasses. I think most people can agree with that the practicality would be much, much higher. I have a big head and little arms, correct. Trust in Apple to build it better than the Oculus Quest. I'm sure Apple would build it better than the Oculus Quest. I'm just not convinced that that's going to be a large market. The Oculus Quest is already not selling at the same volume as any of other Apple's products. It's definitely not selling as well as iPhones, Apple Watches, AirPods, all of that kind of stuff. Each sound is mapped to a particular mouth movement. What? So it's just predicting based on dictation what your mouth looks like? That can't capture emotion, though. I don't think so. I use the bite emojis because it looks like me. I have Animoji turned off. Thanks for keyboard and settings. Maybe Apple's headset will be full face. It literally covers up the entire face. And that's how it motion tracks your mouth. I will only buy it if it works with DCS World and RTX 3090. Yeah, so you're not going to buy it then. That's definitely not happening. The same way there are text-to-speech tools. Text-to-speech is a lot more simple than conveying facial expressions. It's just like, okay, this person said these words. It's not like this person is making their eyes move like this. I believe that the headset is real. I'm just not convinced it's something Apple's going to release. This sounds so niche that sounds like such a small demographic that, because the other part of these rumors that I hope you guys don't forget, sure, Apple would probably have a higher quality, higher, lighter weight, really, really well engineered version of a VR headset that would be better than the Oculus Quest. These rumors have also suggested that this headset is going to be $2,000 or more. So, okay, even if it's better than the Oculus Quest, I would expect it to, it's substantially more expensive. The number of people that would spend $2,000 on an Apple-branded headset so that they could have boardroom meetings with Animoji, that's so niche. That's such like I bet that would sell worse than the Mac Pro even now. Mac Pro in 2022 would probably sell better. Let's see. Why would someone use this Apple VR glasses in real world? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Is there a market for this at all? Like, okay, maybe there's a market for it if you could get the headset down to $500, but that's not rumored to happen. This is rumored to be in the $1,000 department. Imagine a VR headset powered by the iPhone 14 while charging the phone too, making the headset cheaper. What? Charging the phone? Do you just mean it's one of those like attachments that you drop your phone into and then you just look at it through that? That would definitely be cheaper if the brains of the headset were in... Illusion says it'll be $6,000. Apple's new face-melting VR headset, of course. Could have sensors inside. PlayStation VR 2 will have eye tracking. But does it have mouth tracking? So it would just, like, based on the noises you made, it would move the mouth. And then based on the eye tracking internally, it would adjust to your emotions. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't buy the headset. There's something about reality that's too beautiful to digitize. Hearing the price of this and the features competing with Oculus, it sounds like a worse HomePod scenario. No, I agree with you, Michael. It does kind of sound like Apple trying to enter the smart speaker market and kind of flopping and not going anywhere with it. It makes so much more sense to me if we could explain away all of these leaks and rumors with just essentially this is going to be a prototype tool for the internal team at Apple. This is going to be used by the software team to design Reality OS and train their software and algorithms for gestures and that kind of stuff. Oh, thank you, J Money, for supporting the channel. Do you still think the iPhone 12 is better than the 12 Pro? I don't know what the price difference is now because they're not selling the 12 Pro anymore, but probably better value, yeah. Um, I think the vast majority of people would not know the difference between the 12 and the 12 Pro, really. Um, if you know you need the 12 Pro, then you don't need my advice. You're already convinced. But if you're on the fence, probably go with the 12. Um, Screen Apple flopping at everything because of the hefty price. Well, not everything, but yeah, definitely some stuff. The MacBooks have hefty prices, but they're definitely worth it. So a bunch of people are buying it. Michael says audio has been flawless. Chris says audio sounds fine. Kinochio says audio messed up. Sometimes you guys can have internet issues on your own end, but yes, I apologize for those who missed the beginning of this stream. I am streaming with Starlink over OBS, so occasionally the video feed does get pixelated and messed up, but it should only last a few seconds and then it will fix itself shortly. So there's no way for me to avoid that right now. I apologize. I guess the only way for me to not stream with Starlink is to stream directly off my phone, but then the audio sounds a lot worse than the microphone that I'm using right now, which is my onboard MacBook Pro mic. Those glasses sound like AirPower. The AR ones sound more real. I just don't think the AR glasses are ready. The technology probably isn't ironed out yet, and it's going to be a while before those are ready. But if they need time to work on software and demos and even to develop some kind of arcade games for the AR glasses, then having some kind of headset using today's technology for the devs to train and practice on makes a lot of sense. That's how I could see it. But what barometric you think Apple might go with in the future? I don't think Apple will keep Face ID forever. I think Face ID is the most scalable, although I will admit I'm a bit disappointed with how little they've improved it. They seem to have improved Face ID very, very slowly. Um, some people are saying the screen is black, but the audio is great. Is the screen black for anyone else? Let me pull up the stream on here. Because I don't see everyone saying that. It should not. Can you not hotspot from your phone? I can, but it's a limited data option, so I can only do that so many times, and then I run out of data. Yeah, for me the video feed is fine. So, I guess refresh if you're having those kind of issues. Also, I have done live streams off of my phone's hotspot, and even that gets a little spotty. Okay, Mike says audio and visual are good. Scott says no. Okay, good. You look marvelous. It is not black for me. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. We're doing lots of groundbreaking stream tests today, so I appreciate you guys tolerating it. But yeah, I just figured audio should probably come first. It was for a bit, but it's fine now. Gotcha. VR is probably a lot easier to develop for Apple, and if it was reasonably priced, maybe even do well. I think it really would have to be Oculus Quest levels of pricing, though. This could not be over $1,000. Mac Doyle said, if your screen is black, try opening your eyes. Oh, that's a good idea. If you are using a browser, quit and start again. The screen grays out, but for like 3 seconds at a time and very infrequently. Okay. I guess what I was saying is I'm disappointed by Face ID because I was hoping that by now Apple could have the dot projectors working at a wider field of view. So something I thought would be really, really nice is if, like, you know how we have ultra wide cameras, if we could have dot projectors that expand further, because right now, like, Face ID doesn't work from this angle. It'll work from this angle, but not this. And my dream is that the dot projector could scan from a wider array, and I could get to the point where even if the iPhone is sitting flat at a table and I just look down at it a little bit like this, it would be able to unlock from a wider field of view. And so far, they haven't improved that very much. They've been probably focusing all their software towards making Face ID work with a mask, which it's kind of good at. On the beta, it's been a bit more spotty lately for me. It occasionally works and occasionally doesn't, but yeah, it's like mostly just falling back on my Apple Watch to unlock the iPhone, which I'm fine with anyway because I can lock it from the watch if I need to. Robert says reduce stream FPS to 30. YouTube handles that a lot better. I haven't noticed it making a big difference in my testing. Like the choppiness and the pixelation will be there whether it's 60 or 30. Um, so yeah, it's I guess it's the stream won't look as buttery when the connection is good, but yeah, let's see. Wish Apple can borrow what Samsung did with the ultrasonic fingerprint reader. They probably could. They just don't see a point because they know they think Face ID is better. Whether you agree with them or not is kind of irrelevant. That they believe um, Face ID is the superior biometric, at least on iPhones, because it's fairly passive and you can tap anywhere on the display. You don't have to hold your finger on a specific point. You do have to look at it a certain way, but I guess that's probably easier to qualify for accidentally. It's like, oh, it already unlocked. So you don't even think about it. And if they did ultrasonic fingerprint reader, they're probably correct in assuming a very large percentage of people would only use one biometric and not the other. So you'd be adding all of this additional hardware and it would not be utilized or appreciated. So yeah, it'd be nice, but what FPS are you shooting at right now? Because I'm on the Blackmagic, I can actually clock it to 60 FPS now, which means that when the bit rate on Starlink is good, I can have a pretty buttery, pretty high quality stream. But of course, the connection is fairly volatile. But I've been playing around with it for a long time, guys. I assure you, and I apologize, like there is done to figure out how to make the streams better. This is like the best I could come up with. It's not great, but it's a compromise. It's not the best compromise, but yeah, it's lagging like crazy right now. Um, I'll wait for it to iron out. Jeez. Okay. It freaked out there for a second, so now OBS doesn't even know what it's doing. Jeez. I'm using Mint Mobile on my phone, yes, but this live stream is not done over cellular. Let's see. Do you think it's possible the new 13-inch MacBook Pro that still has LCD and big bezels could be some sort of MacBook SE, since the Air is rumored to get mini LED and a notch, so most certainly will be more expensive? Yeah, I don't think it'll be branded as MacBook SE. I think Apple knows the brand power and iconic name recognition of MacBook Pro is just too well known. And I think it does sell incredibly well, partly because of the name. People just know, oh, it's a Pro. Oh, okay. Um, so I think MacBook SE is probably not necessary. I know that the new MacBook Air is supposed to get all these better specs, like the new design and new M2 chip and mini LED and all that, but I actually don't think that's going to be ready. I don't know if there's a report that's claimed otherwise, but I think that the MacBook Air refresh is going to be later. I think that's going to be like in the summertime or in the fall. Whereas this spring event, if there is a spring event in March, is going to be all about old designs with new chips. iPhone SE now has the A15 chip in 5G. iPad Air 5 now has the A15 chip in 5G. And the new MacBook Pro now has the M2 chip, which isn't as fast as M1 Pro, but it's faster than the M1. And we've demonstrated it in this new machine, and we hope you enjoy it. And maybe they throw the M2 chip in a Mac Mini. But I don't expect brand new designs to come out in the spring, as much as the whole color palette thing where they refresh the MacBook Air and it looks all colorful and stuff. Um, how long have I had Starlink for? It's coming up on the year. I'm working on my 1 year review, and yeah, I'll include all of my criticisms. It's definitely been somewhat disappointing, but in other aspects, it's gotten very good. What's my favorite watch band? Probably the blue Nike band I bought like years ago, but I've switched to the white band now just to mix it up a little bit. I was trying to look classier on my vacation. Old designs with new chips would not have an event. Have you remember the September 2020 event? That's exactly what it was. Apple Watch Series 6 was like, hey, new colors and a new chip. And then it was, hey, here's the iPad 8. It's got a new chip, but it's the old design. Here's the iPad Air 4, which is an iPad Pro, but with a new chip in it. That's exactly what spring events are for. Spring events statistically are usually about the very, very boring upgrades in the year. They typically, last year was an exception. 2021 had like one of the biggest spring events I had ever seen. We got the new Apple TV, we got the new iMac, we got the AirTags. There was so much to talk about, but normally that's not what happens. In some years, they don't have spring events at all. In other years, they do, but they're very minor. They're usually the shortest events. So, old designs with new chips, I agree they probably shouldn't have an event, but Apple's been very happy to have keynotes and presentations ever since the pandemic hit. So, um, you'll think we'll have some way to stream Steam VR games to Apple headset. I know that Oculus you can, so I hope developers can come up with some similar solution. Well, we all know how well Apple gets along with Steam, and we all know how much Apple cares about gaming, which is not very much. So, yeah, I'm going to say not likely. Maybe they come up with some developer thing, but I expect that to be more through the iOS App Store and through Apple Arcade titles. I don't expect it to be much through Steam. Um, I don't know. I just feel like Apple hasn't shown much interest in catering to that demographic. So I'm going to guess no. It'd be impressive if they offered that, but it definitely would feel like an alternate reality. It's like, wait, Apple is encouraging us to use Steam games now? It's like, what's going on? It's weird. I just expect the new 13-inch MacBook Pro to get price decrease. I don't expect it to start at 1,300, more like 1,000 to 1,100, especially if the Air gets mini LED. The LCD would have to go down in price. Probably, I mean, especially if it gets the new chip, I guess that should allow it for it to have good battery life. And if it really doesn't change anything about the design, like no new MagSafe and that kind of thing, then I guess it would make sense for the price to go down. Would be kind of weird for them to keep selling it at 1,300, but hey, it's probably sold great so far. It would probably continue selling great at 1,300, but the other reason they might not want to lower the price is if the M2 MacBook Air price goes up. You know, this new design with mini LED, if that ends up being kind of pricey, then jumping up to 1,200 and keeping the M2 MacBook Pro at 1,300, maybe that kind of justifies it, but um hey, there's Mark. I was wondering if he was going to turn into the stream. Mark says, it was great meeting you by chance at Chili's today. I was a bit starstruck. I didn't want to interrupt your lunch. You were very cool. Thank you, sir. Yeah, you were the first person to recognize me in public in a long time. That was kind of cool. I'm glad to see you on the stream. Um, it's funny that I met someone like close by to my hometown after I went from Denver, Colorado to Chicago, and I went to the Apple store in New York City and Las Vegas and back, and I never met anybody who knew me until I bumped into you. So I'm glad I got to meet you, Mark. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed your meal, sir. Sorry for the stream. I know it looks very pixelated right now. You should make a thumbnail out of a pixelated stream clip. It's hilarious. Oh boy. Yeah, now I'll have lots of thumbnail backgrounds to choose from, huh? Let's see. Meanwhile, the MacBook Air would take that $1,300 spot, just like the iPad lineup. Air is more expensive but thinner and comes in colors, versus iPad is thick and gray and silver. Oh, I guess so. I guess that would kind of be like, yeah, the MacBook Pro. I think it'll still be branded as Pro, but the MacBook will basically become the iPad budget version, because that one doesn't have very many color options and it's not the thinnest. So the M2 MacBook Pro will not have that many color options. You know, it has the dated display technology, um, and that's the entry level price. And then the MacBook Air is just like the iPad Air. It's more colorful and it's thinner and it's more powerful, but it's going to cost you a little bit more. Yeah, that that kind of makes sense. You know, if Apple's transitioning over to Apple Silicon, that the MacBook lineup would kind of resemble the iPad lineup a little bit more. Um, Now we need a MacBook Mini, right? No, that MacBook Air can fit that. What are your thoughts on the Mastercard phasing out the Mag strip in the next few years, and do you think the Apple Card will be one of the first to do away with the strip? I read about that, but I thought I heard them say that the mag stripe was going to be phased out in like 2030 or something. It wasn't like anytime soon. What was the timeline on that? I don't remember. Yeah, I definitely think Apple would probably be one of the first to phase out the mag stripe. But yeah, I think they would want to push everyone to Apple Pay as soon as possible. But I think we've got some time from that. I don't think it's gonna jump up on us really quickly. I know it's bad. Whenever I can see the bit rate in real time, so I know when it looks pixelated. I apologize. My only priority here is just that you guys can hear me through the lag spikes. So that's what I'm trying to focus on. Is just as long as you can hear me through these things, then I guess the audio listeners won't mind and won't notice as much. Let's see. So $1,000 gray and silver LCD MacBook in old MacBook Pro, and then $1,300 for colorful Air, and again that would have the M2 chip. $2,000 for 14-inch MacBook Pro. The weird thing about that though is that usually the iPad Air would have the better CPU over the budget iPad, whereas in this case, if they do keep the same design as the M2 MacBook Pro, as the M1 MacBook Pro, they just update the chip. That would mean that the cheaper MacBook would probably get better performance, right? Because that's a thicker laptop with a bigger battery. Um, so it would get a better battery life, and it has a fan in it, right? So that the cheaper MacBook would have better performance, better battery, and you would actually get worse battery life and probably worse performance on the M2 MacBook Air, which is lighter and more colorful, but that's kind of weird in the lineup as far as Macs go. But yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe the differences in performance would be so small, maybe Apple wouldn't care or brag about that. They wouldn't say like the cheaper MacBook gets better performance, but it's just thicker. So it kind of is, yeah. I just, as much as it may sound like a MacBook SE, like it sounds like the budget one, like they haven't even called the budget iPad SE. So, um, yeah, your audio is top notch. Good. The stream is brought to you by Google Pixel 6, showing you every pixel color our software can achieve. Yeah. I wish there was a setting so that when it got like really pixelated, I could cut to a picture of a pixel or something, but I don't think there's a way for me to design that. Um, oh god, I'm getting so many polls. Waiting for Apple's VR verse where you can only pay with Apple Card. Actually, one of the gas stations we go to just started supporting Apple Pay, which is kind of nice. So, getting 2% back there. I love how you can cut out drinking soda. That's super good. Yeah, I guess I haven't had soda for a while. We had a lot of food on our trip, which probably wasn't good. But yeah, Pixel Boy returns. Telephone backgrounds on a clear day. He says, I thought about that. Maybe because Apple Silicon is so new, it's just cheaper for them to shove the new M2 in all their computers. They do it with the iPhone SE. Yeah, all of the expense of developing Apple Silicon is in the R&D. Once the R&D is finalized and you're now mass producing the chip, it's actually very, very cheap to build. The fact that the amount of like components it actually takes to build those chips requires very little. That's why Apple is very comfortable just taking the latest iPhone CPU and throwing it in a $400 iPhone, because the cost of the A15 chip development has already been paid for. Like they've already spent the money. Now it's just about stamping out a bunch of those chips, which is not that hard. Um, so yeah, I think it makes sense that once you've developed the M2 chip, you can put it across all of your Macs for dirt cheap. It's just a matter of which ones you think are going to sell the best and then prioritizing the profit margins on those. So went to a Costco the other day that didn't accept Apple Card. Was a bit frustrating. Yeah, Costco's only take Visa, and all Apple cards are through the MasterCard. So yeah, it doesn't actually matter which Costco you go to. You can't use the Apple Card at any Costco. And you also can't use Apple Pay at Walmart, which is an intentional decision. That's not Walmart being behind the times. That's Walmart wanting you to use Walmart Pay so that you download the app and get all the stupid push notifications from that. So in case you're wondering why you don't have Apple Pay at Walmart, they intentionally chose not to support it. That's not an accident. He said, oh yeah, he expects it to be the price decrease. Did you notice Starlink getting problems more often after that bunch of sats fell to Earth? No, I was noticing it before that. So I have a few theories about this. Because in case some of you didn't know, I've been live streaming on Starlink for a long time, and when I first got it in February of 2021, it was okay. Within a 1 hour stream, I would average around 3% frame drops, which is it's okay. Obviously, not very great. It's manageable. I could stream with it, and occasionally it got buffery and a little bit choppy. And then over the course of 2021, it got better and improved. The uptime and the speeds and everything did get noticeably better. So near the end of 2021, I was like 1% frame drops during a 1 hour stream. Occasionally, even less than 1%. It would dip down to 0.6 or 0.5% frame drops, which is really good. That's like hardly any noticeable issues. Then 2022 came around. We went to Puerto Rico. When I came back from Puerto Rico, I don't know what happened. Something changed. My father-in-law's theory was maybe because we were away for so long, Starlink noticed that my internet was hardly used for like a 2 week period, and maybe they decided to slow down my speeds or priority because they're like, hey, he's not using much data. We can give him slower speeds and he won't notice. And, I have been taking more trips, so I don't know if that affects their algorithm or something, but ever since we got back from Puerto Rico, it's been like, at least before, I've changed the settings now so that I don't drop as many frames, and instead the frames just get pixelated and compressed, which isn't great, but at least I can talk through it and you can hear me. But before I turned on this new adjustment setting, it was like 10% frame drops, 12% frame drops. It was really bad. It was a lot worse than it was even on day one, which I was frustrated by. My only theory as to why it's gotten much worse is because they have added a ton more people on the network. So back when I first got Starlink, I think there was like 50,000 people in the beta. And now I think Elon tweeted that they've surpassed 250,000 users. So there's like 5 times as many people on the network, and there's not 5 times as many satellites. They've added a lot of Starlink satellites since I've been on the beta. And they just sent some up this morning, actually. They deployed another 50. But there's not an equal number of satellites to carry the extra bandwidth. And for the average everyday user, they're not going to notice that kind of thing. The only people that are going to notice the live stream frame drops are people that live stream all the time, like me. As far as download goes, as far as like watching YouTube and watching Netflix or streaming YouTube videos, not live streaming, but just watching YouTube, listening to music, even doing FaceTime calls, all of that stuff is fine. Like all of the general everyday internet usage stuff has been great. It's just the live streaming where it's showing its weaknesses. But my wife is from the Philippines, not Puerto Rico. It should be a law for companies to support contactless payment. I mean, I would really benefit it. I don't know if we need a law for it, but yeah, I agree. It would be nice if everyone had it. Let's see. Given that the speed differences between the current M1 MacBook Air and MacBook Pro are so small, I don't think Apple sees that as a big differentiator. Yeah, they probably shouldn't. I would just say, in which case, like, why do you even need a fan in the M1 MacBook Pro? I don't know if it complicates the manufacturing line a lot, but why don't just take the fan out and put in a bigger battery or something? I don't know. Like, we know the M1 and M2 chip does not need a cooling architecture to be fast. It's still plenty fast on the iPad Pros, which don't have fans, and it's still crazy fast on the MacBook Air, which also has no fans. So, like, why do we need a random fan in the MacBook Pro? I don't get it. Let's see. Costco Visa is excellent on cash back, though, and it has contactless payment on card and Apple Pay. Oh, yeah. I know that they support contactless. Like, when I go to Costco, I just switch to my debit card, which is a Visa, so I can tap that, and it works. I just don't get much cash back. But, yeah, Costco has a bunch of credit cards and all that stuff they give you. There's good rewards and stuff, but it does cost money, so it's not exactly the same. Let's see. What would Apple gain in launching an M2 MacBook Pro in the middle of an M1 era? More external display support? It doesn't seem to justify jumping the gun. I have a theory about that. I think it's possible we are done with the M1 era. I could be wrong. I don't have sources or anything, but I'm saying there's a chance, in my opinion, there's a possibility that when the iMac Pro comes out later in the year, that's rocking M2 Pro or something more beefed up than the M1 Pro, because there's a lot of time now. Given iMac Pro isn't coming as soon as we thought, at least according to Ross Young. It sounds like at the very soonest it would come out in the summertime. very possible that the iMac Pro might not even launch until, September or October. That's a lot of time for them to beef up on their chip production and make something better than what they made last year. So maybe the Mac Pro is going to get an M2 branded chip, because I could already see it getting confusing if in the summertime or in the spring they launch M2 MacBook Pro, M2 MacBook Air, and then the Mac Pro comes out and it has M1 Pro Max or M1 Ultra. Wait, so the MacBook Air has M2, Mac Pro has M1? What? Like, how does this work? We might be done with the M1 era of chips. We might have gotten all our M1 chips. There might not be another one. As far as we know, Apple never really makes silicon that goes past Max. They go to the Max and then that's it. Now you got to wait for another generation. You got AirPods Max, you got the iPhone Pro Max. They don't do much beyond Max. That's usually the end limit. So the fact that we've hit M1 Max now means we might be done. We might be done with M1. We might all be on the M2 train from here on out. Not sure. I think the Apple would gain a bunch of people. Oh, thank you for the super sticker, Scott. I appreciate that. You didn't say anything, but it was nice of you to support the channel. The benefit of launching an M2 MacBook Pro now is that you get to recycle your old design. So let's say they've figured out a way to start mass producing the M2 chip, and they haven't finalized the design, and they haven't figured out mass production of the MacBook Air redesign yet, and they haven't figured out the supply chain issues for the iMac Pro yet. But you've got the chip ready, you've got the M2 ready. Put that in an old design so you don't have to change the assembly line. Just keep manufacturing the same MacBook Pro, except now it has an M2 chip. Now you can get a ton of people, because it's a brand new MacBook Pro and because it has a new fancy chip in it. All the tech YouTubers are going to want to review it. Everyone is going to want to check it out and see how much faster it is. You get a bunch of people buying an old design that you didn't have to change much for other than pop in a new chip. So Apple would probably have fairly thick profit margins on that MacBook. So I still see there being an advantage or an incentive for Apple to doing that. Speaking of Elon, you coming to GigaFest, I can promise if I get an invite, I will probably be there. Very likely will be there if I get an invite, but I don't think I'm going to get an invite, unfortunately. I wish I could, but Aria, thank you for the super chat. Didn't say anything, but appreciate it. Let's see. I hate the fan on my MacBook Pro. Been waiting on the Air refresh since before the M1. I just don't think it helps much, honestly. I don't think it does anything. Just never run a balance, but I'm sure you already know that. Yeah, I never run a balance on my credit card. But what's funny is your credit score will go up if you don't pay it off, which I find funny. But I've never once in all my years, I got a credit card, I think when I was the day I turned 18. I think like I've had a credit card as long as I've legally been able to, and I've never paid an interest for a late fee or anything. That's never happened. Considering how Meta is able to offer a highly competitive VR headset in terms of pricing, how do you think Apple will approach the mass markets? That's what I can't figure out, because Apple's usually not the type to be like, we got to match the competition on pricing. But I think that in the VR headset market, which is not inherently very large, it's nowhere near as large as AirPods or the Apple Watch or any current Apple product, is way bigger than the VR headset market. But from the rumors we've heard about, this headset is supposed to be like 8K displays and super lightweight and made of metal and premium materials. It would not be a $500 headset or a $400 headset. This sounds like it would be thousands of dollars, which is what Bloomberg said it would cost, and they're pretty reputable. So I don't see how Apple would compete with that, other than maybe just having really great software, and maybe they're convinced that with their own brand power and the security and power of the Apple ecosystem, that a bunch of people would be willing to spend big bucks on an Apple headset. I don't know. I definitely don't think I could justify it. Like, I can't think of the use case. Using it in the living room for something, I don't know, playing a game, but it costs you thousands of dollars, and then you got to pay $5 a month for arcade or something like that. I don't know. I don't really see the appeal. I don't see a bunch of people being interested in that. Wallyhead says, have you ever tweeted Elon Musk? I've tweeted at him several times. I think he's only responded once a couple of years ago. Not recently, but I've been in threads with Elon a couple times. But wow. Oh my God. We just got the biggest super chat of the stream. Thank you, Offroaders123. He's just said, would like to thank you for your content over the years. Been around since the Attic days and inspiring to see how far you've come since then. Can't wait to see the future of Tailosive. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. That's always fun to hear. People have been around so long and they're still watching. Apple will try to reinvent the market, but we'll be over $1,000. I think you're right. Yeah, I'm excited to see the future of Tailosive as well. I'm not sure what it has in store. I definitely think the tech community as a whole has gotten very saturated, and the news itself has gotten less interesting, less exciting. But that just means we got to go more niche. We got to get more techie. We got to get more into the roots. We got to get more into the weeds with the tech stuff and Apple followings. And I've taken a bit of a break from reviewing Android phones, but I've definitely gotten a lot of people asking me to talk about the Galaxy S22 lately and the S22 Ultra. And I don't know, maybe if enough people keep asking me to do it, I might have to get back into the Android review market, because there's not enough stuff going on in the tech community anyway to make enough content over. So I might have to jump back into that. But Nick is responsible for South Padre getting a Starship. That's been cracking me up all day. Yep. Nick is the sole reason that's going to happen. Exactly. Those that always pay off their cards are referred to deadbeats? Wait, those that always pay off their cards? How are they deadbeats? They just don't want to have an interest payment. That's all. Or did you mean the opposite of that? Max, all new MacBook Ultra Pro Max Plus Touch. Plus Touch, that makes sense. Jeez. I thought Apple was targeting AR with glasses and bringing things into the real world, and Facebook was targeting VR and fake world. Based on the description of these glasses, it doesn't really sound like much AR is going on. Ryan Fraley, thank you for being a member for 6 months. For those who don't know, channel members pay $2 a month, and they get to vote on what upcoming videos are going to be on. You get updates on what my next video subject will be. You get to have behind-the-scenes filming and editing live streams, which have been a lot of fun, and we do stream tests for the members and stuff. So I appreciate the support. He says AR/VR might be the true 5G use case. So you need 5G for AR to work? Wait, what do you mean? Let's see. I would love to see an S22 series review. Personally, it looks great to me, except the new design. So ugly, in my opinion. I just feel like in 2020, I reviewed like every type of Android phone there was. I reviewed a $300 Android. I reviewed a $2,000 foldable. I reviewed a $1,400 flagship. I reviewed a mid-range $800. And the reactions I got from most of those reviews were like, you're the Apple guy. We don't really care much of what you think. So because those videos weren't performing incredibly well, and they were taking a lot of time, of course, because I have to review the phone and I got to break my ecosystem and put my SIM and all these different things, I was like, well, if people aren't getting much value out of them, I'm not getting much out of it. I was just willing to mess up my ecosystem and move around my SIM if it was helpful for reviews. But now I've stopped doing the reviews for over a year, and people are like, when are you going to get back into the reviews? So it's making me rethink it. But I still am on the concept. I'm still on the side of like, if I review an Android phone, I don't want to do what I did before, because I feel like people have seen people try me use an Android phone for 2 weeks, and I'm like, yeah, the hardware is good, but the software on like a long-term Android switch, like switching to Android for an extended period of time. Sorry, I know it's really chopped. I know the bit rate's really, really bad. Hopefully it should fix itself shortly. Scott says he thinks the S22 is a gorgeous looking phone. Yeah, from the video, I watched MKBHD's videos on them, and I thought the S22 Plus looks great. I thought it was gorgeous. I actually prefer the new approach to the cameras, but I don't know why it matters. I don't need to buy the phone to tell you I think the camera design looks good. How do you become a supporter? It should be the second link in the description. The first link is to Ian Zalo, who did the render and the thumbnail. So well done, Ian, for that AR headset concept. But right beneath that, there is a link that says support, and you got to do it on Safari. You can't do it through the mobile app. But yeah, just go through a browser. if you want to become a member. Have you reviewed an OG flip phone? No, and I have no plans to. 8K on AR VR will be way more of a bandwidth consumer. I'm saying mid-band 5G is the okay way that can get proper bandwidth apart from Wi-Fi connected to gigabit connections, of course. I'm just saying no one's going to be using a VR headset in public. You're not going to be wearing it around cities and on buses and using it at restaurants. It covers your face. That social aspect is not going to age very well. You're going to look so weird. So what use case of 5G, how would 5G and the headset go together? Like, what is it going to do with that? You're not streaming 8K content. They're 8K resolution because I assume there would be virtual environments, and because it's so close to your face, you need a really, really high resolution for it to not look too pixelated. So are you streaming the environments you're checking out? That's usually not what VR does. It's usually downloaded and stored locally. I wish the S22 Ultra has a flat screen to the edge and not curved. Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't like the curved stuff, but I also wish they round the bottom corners but leave to square. It also looks sweet. I just like the look of the S22 Plus because it had one size bezel all the way around, which is pretty rare these days outside of iPhones. And then it has a camera hole, which was very small. They got that camera hole pretty narrow. So it looks clean, but I'm sure it runs Android, and I'm just going to be like, Android's fine, but I prefer iOS. VR headsets don't entice me. They don't entice most people. I try to remind the tech community of that. We probably get more uppity about VR and AR and stuff, but the average consumer has not taken much of an interest in VR headsets. They are at a whole lower level of, like, compared to AirPods or smartwatches. Those sell at way, like 10, 100 times higher volume than VR headsets do. Wearing it on a bus train might not be bad, assuming you won't get motion sickness. I don't think people are going to do it. For the same reason Bluetooth earpieces didn't take off very well, because you don't want to be talking to yourself in public. It's just kind of awkward, so people would rather just use their phone and text. It's the same thing with the headset. You don't want to go to a public place and blindfold yourself and be doing this. You know, it's just, you're going to look weird, and you're not going to know if someone's messing with you or right next to you. It's just going to make people uncomfortable. Some of the AR VR cases I'm mentioning are business related too. That's the public case I speak of. What is that? That doesn't mean anything. Expand on that. What is the business? What business use case of streaming 8K video to your headset? What is a business going to do with that? Let's see. Maybe the AR VR headset is a developer tool. That's what I think it is. It's for internal development. Since the eventual glasses are basically going to need developers, unlike the iPhone and Apple Watch, which could stand on their own at first. Yeah, it's kind of hard to make dev tools for the headset, for the AR glasses, without some kind of hardware to mess around with. So, Scott says, you must stand directly in front of the millimeter wave tower for your VR headset to work. Please don't bump into the other 1,000 sheep while standing in front of it. You probably would, huh? Let's see. How good will it be if the low battery message goes away in iOS 16? That's might be on the top of my iOS 16 wish list, to be honest. Just turn it into a notification. That's all I'm saying. If there's a low battery issue, just make it a little drop down. Don't need to take over the entire display, and the only way to get rid of it is to tap one button. Every other part of the screen freezes. We don't need that, Apple. Let's see. I think personally AR would change the world more than VR. Yeah, I think most people would agree with that. Imagine a mechanic working on an engine and getting readings in the glasses, or looking at a new home and all this square footage pops up with info. Yeah, I think Tim Cook as well has mentioned that. Most people can agree, like, the possibility and the potential of AR is far greater than that of VR. VR is quite limited, actually. You can basically do some gaming and maybe some gimmicky living room demos of, like, hey, we're all sitting around the conference room table with our, Mark Zuckerberg looking animojis. It's definitely not as scalable as AR is, whereas AR could be used in public. It could be used for mechanics. It could be used for navigation. It could be used for entertainment. It could be used for gaming. There's really no end to where AR glasses could go. But VR, you run out of use cases pretty quickly. Um, Humans have already created the best devices that are not intrusive. Phones are perfect tools. Anything else is smoke and mirrors. People are just trying to make the next big thing like phones. I'm sure because the phones were a revolution, but I do agree that there will probably never be a device that replaces as many devices as a phone did. And we're kind of naive to assume uh, app, something like a smartphone will happen again in our lifetime. Some technology that changes our landscape that much. Um, that's very disruptive technology, and of course it's blown up and it's taken over and it's become very very popular and very very common. But it's not that kind of that technology that changes everything is rare. Okay, just I hope people can grasp that. Like this is not a common thing. Um, you need a Linus Tech Tips water bottle. Do I? How much can it hold and does it have this little switch mechanism? That's what matters to me. If I can press it to open it and then close it so the mouthpiece is protected, and I can open it up again. That's what I'm looking for. Also, this was like $1. I got it for $1. Let's see. I got the Samsung VR attachment for free with whichever Galaxy phone. It sat in a drawer and it's still there. I think that's what happened to most. You've noticed that companies like Google and Samsung got into the VR headset stuff alongside the smartphone for a couple years, and then it all went away. We had Google Daydream, and we had Samsung VR, but they all stopped talking about that. That doesn't happen anymore, probably because of lack of activity. People weren't utilizing those features very much. Um, there was a solar magnetic storm recently that knocked out a bunch of Starlink satellites. Maybe that is contributing to the rise in frame drops. No, it only applied to brand new satellites that had just been deployed. They weren't in orbit yet. They hadn't been well. They were in orbit. But they weren't activated. There were about 40 satellites that were lost to the what's it called, magnetic storm, and they had all just been launched off a rocket. So the rocket took off, launched the satellites, and landed. That all went fine, and then the storm was. They tried to avoid the storm by pointing the satellites in a different direction and putting them in like a folded up position, but they all went through the atmosphere and burned up. They were not active satellites. They only lost 40. So the vast majority of the Starlink satellites that I use are all still online, and they just added some more this morning. I don't think they're online yet. It probably takes a couple weeks for them to fully activate. But I think the only reason the Starlink connection has been so spotty is because there's just way more people on the network now consuming more bandwidth, and there's not enough satellites to compensate it. Linus Tech Tips is $30. Ooh, that's too much. Let's see. Enterprise use cases don't have to be common. They just don't have healthcare virtual tours and product demos, as well as manufacturing and business ops. How? I'm just trying to figure out how that uses 5G. Why do you need gigabit level speed to do healthcare in VR? I don't get it. Have I ever used the iPad for drawing? Occasionally, but I'm not very good at drawing, so I use it mostly for video thumbnails. Um, let's see. With AR, everyone can have the experience of Iron Man. What, dying? Sorry. Spoiler alert. Oops. I'm just an average consumer worried about winter storms. Now we got to worry about solar storm, magnetic storms, asteroid dust. Can't wait till an app comes out for those things. Those things were all there before. They just didn't impact us as much because we weren't using as many satellites previously. But the Starlink satellites are all small enough that they never make it to the surface. If they deorbit, then they burn up in the atmosphere and then they're gone. They're reduced to dust. Don't worry about solar storms. Yeah, all those things All those things existed before. We don't need a Tailosive Tech water bottle. That's okay. We'll be fine without that. Um, yeah, I think that we took down the merch page because the merchandise was just complicating taxes even further. As I've discovered, we're still waiting on tax documents from several of our old sites that I used to be on, but um, there's enough YouTubers plugging merch in this world. I don't think I need to plug more merch. It's okay. Just buy a water bottle that works best for you. I'm not going to try to tell you to buy my water bottle because it has my logo on it. So somehow that magically makes it better. That's okay. Don't worry about it. Just enjoy. Just sit back, relax. Let's talk about tech. Let's talk about uh, Apple. Let's talk about VR and AR use cases. I think people just have weird definitions. Okay, Ryan's going again. What does he say? Enterprises demand way more precision than the average consumer, and they will have a large number of simultaneous users at 50 to 200 megabits at the same time. That's going to take indoor private 5G. That's called Wi-Fi. Indoor private 5G? Just use Wi-Fi at that point. That's probably a lot more stable than trying to share a network with a bunch of people watching TikTok in the area. You also haven't answered me like that. I'm not saying they're common use cases. I'm just saying any use case. Tell me exactly. Don't just say healthcare. What is the healthcare use case? Like, someone needs to virtually do a checkup where they look inside your mouth with a 12K camera and then you stream that data over the 5G signal so that you can see what is wrong with their teeth or their throat. Like, what high bandwidth use case is there in the business world? I don't get it. I'm not saying it's a common use case. I'm just asking for any use case, common or not. Tell me a use case that is incredibly rare that would appreciate a business or enterprise or a hospital utilizing 5G speeds with AR. I don't get it. It makes no sense. Fun fact, the Ipod Touch 7th generation turned 1,000 days old today. Still $300 for any decent amount of storage. What? 1,000 days? Can they kill that thing, please? He said that's the one. I just made that up. It sounds ridiculous. First of all, how is the patient going to have a 12K camera? And how is the patient going to have a 5G signal? So why does the... Are you saying the dentist is in one hospital and the patient is in another hospital? And luckily both hospitals happen to have super private indoor 5G? And that's the use case? Nah, I don't get it. I think Elon Musk is going to give Apple a run for the money with GPS mobile phones if he can develop a new OS with lower fees. The next... No. Elon and Apple are not competing in anything. I'm sorry. Starlink needs large terminals to have the signal received. You can't... Starlink would not be good for cellular. 5G on a microwave. There you go. Heat up your food by just beaming millimeter wave 5G. Also, download files really quickly if you put your phone in the microwave. Give that a good try. See what happens. Don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah, probably gaming is the best use case you have for VR, which Apple has shown very little interest in, considering the M1 Pro and M1 Max have these way better graphics cards, and they never once talked about their gaming performance. The original iPod Touch thinness was what I wanted for a phone forever. Well, yeah, it's way easy to make a phone thinner if you take out all the things that make it a phone. Take out the earpiece, take out the water resistance, take out the vibration motor, take out the taptic feedback, take out the decent battery life, take out the biometric. iPod Touch doesn't even have Touch ID. Yeah, if you take out all the stuff that you like about phones, you can make it thinner. Cool. I'm not saying enterprise isn't consumer. All I'm asking is, what are the use cases that a hospital doing? Hospital doing remote visits would benefit from high-speed internet and high-resolution camera. They already do this, but with higher resolution, it would be better for assessments. Why not use Wi-Fi? Why wouldn't they use fiber optics at that point? That would be far more stable. But what remote visits are they doing? The remote visits are essentially video calls. I've seen that. I've seen the hospital that has a doctor that appears on a screen, and the screen is attached to a motor, and they drive around the hospital in this little moving car. But you don't need gigabit speeds to do that. They're just talking to the patient, and then they ask the patient, "How are you feeling?" And they're like, "Bad." And they're like, "What hurts?" "My leg." "Okay, it's probably this or that." It's like, what? I don't get it. I think these are all made up 5G use cases that don't exist. A lot of people keep acting like, "Oh no, I read about this thing where they're going to do surgeries over 5G." And I'm like, "Are they though?" Augmented reality monitoring of production lines on cars to drive better quality management is another use case. What? AR apps with LiDAR can't even figure out distances correctly. I don't see how that would require a 5G signal or how it would improve quality control. That has more to do with how it's attached. You don't need augmented reality to figure out, oh, this gap isn't correct. Don't get me started on what a cluster Wi-Fi is. Wi-Fi 6 is a cluster of a standard. Are we going to pretend 5G is not a cluster of a standard? I would argue 5G is way worse. Remote is not going to get the best bandwidth. I agree. I've been assessed over 4G with no issue. There you go. Thank you, Clyde. Me, doctor, my phone is itchy. Doctor, let's blast it with 5G. Oh my god. There have been phones thinner than the Ipod Touch. Apple can make an extremely thin iPhone. They just know that people won't care or even like it. Well, you can make it thinner. It just would result in more issues. Like, you're going to have to take out some things like the battery. So, okay, great. You made the phone thinner, but the battery life is way worse, or the camera is way worse, or the biometric is way worse. So, yeah, it's not. iPod Touch is not some miracle of engineering that they could get it that thin. It's very simple. You just take out all the parts that make it a phone. 6G is going to be so much better, you guys, I swear. That makes sense. But thank you for tuning in, Jeff. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm still convinced this is a developer tool. I believe Digitime's in saying that maybe some early production tests have been finalized, but I'm still having a hard time wrapping my brain around this being sold to consumers. These are super specific uses of 5G are not a product that Apple would make. If these products were going to exist, they would be done by companies who have experience in medical equipment, not Apple. I agree, and I don't even think the medical companies are relying much on 5G. I think they would much rather rely on super reliable fiber optic Wi Fi. And honestly, the amount of infrastructure that would require this kind of internet and stability between hospitals, it's probably just cheaper to transport the doctor. I hate to say it, but yeah, it's probably going to be easier for him to just fly to the hospital and be there himself. I'm happy that iPhones are properly thick. Yeah, the thinnest iPhone was actually the iPhone 6, and everyone complained about how easy it was to bend and the touch disease problems. So, if anything, Apple got in a lot of trouble by making it thin. And ever since the iPhone 6, they've only made the iPhone thicker. Every single year, it's gotten a little bit thicker. Um, my phone was getting 300 down, 100 up on LTE, and now that 5G was rolled out, I'm getting 50 down and 15 up on the LTE. There you go, right? 5G is faster because we made it faster. We had to slow down LTE to get 5G to the speeds we wanted. It basically just rebranded the 4G. That makes sense. Yes, iPhone 6 was the first foldable. That's correct. But you could only fold it once, and that was it. Consumers that are developers, they won't be able to fill the orders fast enough, but it will be a small market to begin with. I think the market is so incredibly small, it is limited to Apple's own staff. Software engineers that work at Apple, that is the market for the AR headset, or the VR headset, I should say. We keep calling it a mixed reality. I don't know what part of this thing is supposed to be AR. It's a display. It covers your eyes. I don't understand how that's augmented because rumors are pointing to this thing not really having cameras, maybe LiDAR, but not so much cameras. So if that's the case, then unless you have a really good ultra wide lens on the front, you're not going to be doing much augmented reality with this thing. So I think we should just call it a VR headset. I don't know what Apple's going to call it. Maybe Apple View. But it would definitely be interesting to see Apple make such a niche, weird product like this. I mean, they don't normally do that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, that's about it. Let's see. The only benefit I can think of for 5G is for developing countries that don't yet have normal 4G coverage that will suddenly have fast internet. I suppose 5G home internet, I think there's more logic to. Just if there's a more higher throughput way to support people that don't have good Wi-Fi, that I've heard it being used for that, which is good. Um, 5G is faster because they allow numbers to lie. They ignore the real life. As soon as 5G was released in my area, LTE has become extremely slow, unusable around 5G nodes. Thanks, Verizon. Good job. The current iPod Touch is 6.1 millimeters thick and has horrendously bad battery life. It is a smaller battery than the original iPhone. Really? I didn't realize it was that bad. I knew it was bad, but so yeah, the iPad Pro is actually thinner at 5.9 millimeters, which is kind of funny. Yeah, I guess if you didn't have cellular of any kind, 5G is better than nothing. Um, yeah, just seeing Apple get into a market that they're not currently in, even if it is a weird one, even if it is a small one. This is definitely not. This is definitely not one of the markets I think Apple needed to enter. I would much rather Apple enter the cellular internet space or the just providing more online banking services, or Apple providing what's it called, dedicated cameras or smart appliances, smart home accessories. I would love to see Apple get more into all of that kind of stuff, but Apple getting into their own VR headset is like, I don't know. I have tried VR headsets. It's impressive that you can put a display on your nose and then put a gyroscope in that device so that it moves with your head motion. Okay. I don't know if it's incredibly immersive. It still very much feels like I have a monitor on my nose. Um, but I didn't try on VR goggles and think the future is here. This is what everybody's going to be doing one day. I was like, nah, this feels like a tech community thing. Feels like something us nerds would like and would be kind of interested in, but everyday people, I don't think so. Wi-Fi is typically a very small distance. 5G is probably a larger footprint. Not really millimeter wave. At least millimeter wave 5G is very short distance. Did you see the jerry rig everything Ben test on the OnePlus 10? That thing snapped like a branch. I thought no one liked the OnePlus 10 anyway because they screwed up the software. So um, I don't have the exact numbers, but the original iPhone had around 1400 milliamp hours, and the iPod Touch has around 900. Oh my god, that sounds too low. I don't think that's right. I thought it was more like 1100, but yeah, that is still worst. Um, let's see. VR/AR machine learning technologies massively dropped. We have been talking about the glasses since 2018, right? I think it has. I thought I remember talking about it in 2017 that Apple wanted to get more into augmented reality stuff, but maybe it was 2018. It's definitely been a while. I remember there being Bloomberg leaks and rumors about a VR AR headset from Apple that was going to have really high resolution displays and really lightweight and that kind of thing. And here we are, it's 2022, and we're like, maybe next year. So yeah, it's VR headsets allow you to exercise your neck muscles. I guess so. Yeah. Maybe if Apple, here's an idea. Apple's gonna buy Peloton because Peloton is tanking and not doing very well. They're gonna rope Peloton into their Fitness Plus subscription service and make it so that you can buy a Peloton straight through the Apple Store, and then you get 2 years or 3 years of Fitness Plus for free, and you can use it right on the screen. And if you buy the crazy Apple AR headset, then while you're biking, you can pretend you're biking through the mountains or the woods, or you can pretend you're biking on a beach, and they'll go through your virtual environments that you can download directly to the bike. They'll make Pelotons that are powered by Apple Silicon. You throw the M2 chip in that bike so it can render out these 360-degree high resolution environments to enjoy. So yeah, that's their plan. I figured it out. I've cracked the code. Um, The spatial audio was developed primarily for their VR usage in the future, but the products released today are not meant to take over and be a big hit. Tech will reach maturity in 5 years, probably. I think it already has. I don't think a headset is going to change much. But as far as smartphones and watches and iPads and MacBooks and all that kind of stuff, it's all kind of peaked. Yeah, I mean, it will get better, obviously. I'm not saying it can't get better. I'm just saying that the number of noticeable differences is going to get smaller and smaller. It already has gotten really small. Um, but you're better off getting a first generation iPhone SE than an iPod Touch. Yeah, I agree. I'd rather just actually go biking. Yeah, it's probably much cheaper to just actually take a bike ride. But some people live in cities and you can't go out and bike as easily. I don't know. Completely understand cynicism about 5G because all three major carriers lied about 5G here when in other countries they built out networks with proper density and layout. Well, I definitely think they over exaggerate the benefits of 5G like crazy because what I've heard Ryan say countless times is that the primary advantage of 5G is having more capacity and it can just handle more people. But when you watch commercials and when you watch the marketing for 5G, it's all about gigabit speeds and it's 50 times faster than LTE, and that's just not true. It's just all of it is way over exaggerated. In reality, it's like maybe 2 or 3 times faster than LTE and occasionally even slower than LTE. But yeah, it's a mess of standards and upcharges and all that. Um, let's see. An Tim Cook rockets past me on his Peloton. You see a bunch of animojis in your Peloton metaverse. Apple will pioneer the gymnasium of the virtual world. Oh my god. I'm not into this whole metaverse thing. I got to admit, this metaverse does not sound very interesting to me. I would not be willing to spend much money just so I could enjoy things in the uh, virtual world. I would rather buy things I can enjoy and appreciate in the real world because we're all living in a simulation anyway. So why do we need a simulation in a simulation? Why don't we ask ourselves that question? Oh, okay. So I apologize. The realist probably didn't catch the beginning of the stream. For those who don't know, I'm streaming on Starlink right now, which Starlink has unfortunately gotten quite spotty, but luckily there is a OBS feature that for the most part allows me to talk through the lag spikes. But of course, as you're seeing right now, it gets incredibly compressed and it gets really, really pixelated and you can barely see anything, which is not great and not ideal. But I do think that the audio quality sounds much, much better than streaming off my phone via cellular, which is still an option. But there's still some lag when I'm using cellular connections, and I definitely think the MacBook Pro microphone I'm using right now is much, much better than the iPhone microphone. So because I'm near the end of the stream here, I'm going to run a poll just based on your guys' watching the stream and say, should I do cellular streams with the iPhone like I have been doing in the past, or should I stream like this with Starlink with MacBook Pro? And the question is, what's the better way to stream cellular data with iPhone? Yeah. So we'll see what you guys prefer, because obviously the video is very choppy and very compressed and pixelated, but the audio is prioritized. So I definitely know there's a lot of you guys that listen to these streams on the podcasts app, and there's a lot of you guys that turn on the stream and then go to other things in the background and work on other stuff. I lived through the Atari 2600 days. You're less pixelated. It's pretty bad. It did drop bitrate quite a bit. iPhone with plug-in mic. That's not an option. I do not have a plug-in mic, and I've checked out a few online. There's a few microphones you can plug into the iPhone, but for one, the Streamlabs app on my iPhone has been very buggy, so I'm not even sure if the extra hardware is going to work. And from the microphone quality I've heard, it's not very good. I mean, tag me on Twitter if you guys know of a external microphone for the iPhone that you like, but all the reviews I've seen are not that impressive. Have you tried tethering from phone to MacBook? You can, but it's using hotspot data. So when you use hotspot data, it's limited, and I've done it in the past. It still lags, so there's still lag problems when you um, use the phone's hotspot. So I voted, but I don't really mind either one. Whatever makes it easier for you. They're about the same. One requires me to use a lot of software on my phone, which has been unreliable, and sometimes they update the Streamlabs app and it's broken and it doesn't work, which is kind of frustrating. If I use the MacBook Pro, I get the animations when you guys super chat or when someone becomes a channel member. There's the little sound and the animation which plays. Um, so I'm trying to gauge. The reason I did this stream today was to gauge what you guys think. I mean, obviously, I was expecting the chat to be more distracted by the compression because it is very distracting. Obviously, it's like, hey, Drew's talking, and now all of a sudden he's a gray, messy blob. He doesn't even look right. But when the connection is pretty solid, I am able to actually stream at 1080p at 60, and I can't do that off the iPhone. I don't think the iPhone does it at all, but at least it looks better because I can use the Blackmagic camera and I can use the onboard microphone, so it sounds better. So it sounds like, at least based on the first 38 people have voted, most people are saying to keep it the way it is, like right now, Starlink with the MacBook Pro. Over time, hopefully, the number of Starlink satellites will improve, and that means the upload speed will improve, and then there won't be as many compression issues. I can get similar bandwidth on LTE compared to Starlink. They're kind of a mixed bag. I've live streamed off of cellular, and it's okay. I mean, the peak speeds for me in my area, it's going to depend on where you are. In my area, Starlink gets better peak speeds, but cellular is usually more stable. So if you're doing something like downloading a big file, Starlink would be better because as the speed improves, your download will catch up and go faster. And if I'm uploading a video, Starlink is better because as the upload improves, the video uploads faster. Whereas if I was uploading all my videos off of my cellular connection, it's stable, but it's pretty slow. So the upload is overall going to just take longer. Whereas when you're live streaming, stability is usually more of what you want. But I'm kind of limited because with my hotspot data, you can only use so much before you run out. Whereas Starlink is unlimited data. There's no data cap on Starlink. So change in video quality is much less jarring than an audio pause, in my opinion. That's how I thought about it. I hope you guys feel the same way. Like, okay, Drew's occasionally pixelated, but at least the audio isn't interrupted, which is the alternative. Yeah, I like where the poll's heading too, because it means I get to keep streaming via Starlink, which is kind of cool to say. And, when the connection is good, it's really good. It's probably better than what the phone looks like when the connection is working properly. I'm using a lot of natural light, so that's why I might look a little dark. I'd probably mess around with the lighting a tad, but I just like the fact that you live stream, you provide me with things to look forward to during the week. Oh, thanks, James. I appreciate that. I wish more YouTubers would live stream, honestly. I think it's a lot of fun, especially when they interact directly with the fans, because you figure out exactly what people are curious about. So, thing about Cali's T-Mobile home internet could be congested due to T-Mobile having a ton of customers there. That's the only thing I'm partly nervous about. Like, I was thinking about buying the T-Mobile home internet package because it is cheaper than Starlink. But if the speed is anything like my iPhone speed, it would not really be better than Starlink in terms of peak speed. It might be more stable, but from the reviews I watched of the home internet reviews, people were saying it can be spotty, especially when it gets high traffic. You're deprioritized when you're on the T-Mobile home internet thing. So I was like, well, I might be trading one spotty internet service for another spotty internet service, but at least it would be cheaper. I don't know. I would feel dumb if I bought the thing and then it didn't work very well at all, so I had to return it. I can't stand it when you're in the middle of a thought and the stream cuts out. This was much better. Okay, good. I like hearing that. How good is your T-Mobile network at home? Check out Calix Institute. They give out unthrottled hotspot for $500 a year, if that helps. I don't know. Is that a internet? Is that a home internet thing or $500 a year? Huh. That's, let me do the math really quick. 500 a year is $41 a month. I guess that's pretty good, but yeah, the T-Mobile network is not amazing where I am. I have 2 bars right now. I'll do a speed test live. Why not? Let's just see what happens. You're the only YouTuber I follow who interacts with viewers regularly. That's why I support you. Oh, thanks, Sparngel. Have you thought about a secondary work from home job? No. I don't really need one. Oh, okay. So right now, this is the fastest I've seen it in a while. I'm getting almost 300 down, which is a little bit better than what Starlink gets download wise. And uploads around 20, 22, 23 or so. That's actually one of the better speed tests I've ever done. It definitely, I've seen it much worse than that. It's not always that consistent, but that was actually one of the better speed tests. I'm going to test again. Let's see. You can test out the T-Mobile test app. You give a trial with. I've done that. I got the exact same speeds when I tried the test drive app as I did with Mint Mobile. T-Mobile where I live is 50 to 75 down, 5 to 10 up. So this time it's a little over 200 down. And the upload is more like 16. So it's going down a bit already. I don't really need a secondary job from home. I'm already good. You're in an ultra capacity area. Well, I'm not in a major city. I'm in a pretty rural area, so I don't know if I'm in an ultra capacity, but they're not the 5G speeds I was promised, but they were technically with 5G. It does say 5G there, but I've gotten better speeds with Starlink. And does Louise ask you many tech and EV questions? Almost none. Usually, she'll ask me tech questions if something isn't working correctly. Like today, she's discovered that we have many lightning cables that do not work. Team USB-C, everyone, because we apparently have had 3 or 4 lightning cables in our collection that just don't work, and her phone keeps not charging. I can tell because T-Mobile low band doesn't get over 150 more or less. Oh, okay. But yeah, she's mostly asks me what's wrong when a website isn't working correctly. Like she's been trying to schedule stuff with the DMV, and the DMV website is really poorly made and terrible. And she's like, "Why does it do this?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Some idiot designed it, I guess." So yeah, for the basic stuff I use my phone for, the cellular connection is great. But what's weird is even when I live stream off my phone, it has frame drops. So I was hoping that if I streamed everything off my phone, the stream would be more stable, but it still ended up lagging, and occasionally the whole stream would crash, and I would have to reboot reboot the app. And I was like, well, this isn't ideal either. So I want to make Starlink work if I can. So we didn't get a ton of people voting on the poll, but it seems like most. I want to hear like, okay, there's 41% of people have said that they would rather me stream with cellular data on the iPhone. Can you tell me in the chat why you think that's the better option? Because in my brain, the logical side of things just says prioritize the audio over the video because hearing me is probably more important than seeing me. So if you're going to have an unreliable experience either way, would you rather have pixelation or would you rather have cutouts where you can't hear me and my thought isn't finished? Calix Institute priority has a high priority as far as I know. You can check out the Mobile Internet Resource Center. They have reviews on it. The hotspot SIM can be used for a special router. Okay, I haven't heard of that, but it sounds interesting. It might be worth looking into, especially if it's cheap. Oh, people said this is supposed to be a good iPhone microphone. Thank you, Mark. Mark D on Twitter for tagging me. I hope that uh, microphone is good. I might give that a look. But I appreciate all the help and for you guys putting up with all of the pixelation and uh, all of the compression that goes on during the streams. I know it's not ideal. I wish there was a way for me to fix it. Unfortunately, probably the most permanent solution would be for me to sell my house and buy a new one and move to a place with fiber, but that is not in the budget and I can't afford to do that. So I'm just making the best I can with what I have. Uh, Mobile Internet Resource Center channel is excellent. Okay, gotcha. Why is quality set? Yeah, James says he'd rather have more consistent audio. So I don't see many people defending their vote. With whoever's voting for cellular data is not really providing much of a counter argument. So audio over video is, I think, the way to go. But anyway, I appreciate you all for the super chats, all our channel members for supporting, and I'll catch up with you all later. Take care. Have a great day. Bye bye.